Niner Empire. Welcome to the Phresh Perspective Podcast. Now here's your host, Jerry Phresh.
So excited about what our San Francisco 49ers continue to do. I just want to get on here and just talk it out. I want to get on here and enjoy this with you. A beautiful season of 8-0. The 49ers are set to play on Monday Night Football against the Seattle Seahawks, but in Santa Clara, a home game, and I like it like that. Let's get this W. Let's be excited about what the 49ers are doing and what I believe they'll continue to do. I think they will get a win against the Seattle Seahawks. I think Russell Wilson is an MVP candidate, but while he's throwing a lot of touchdowns, I feel like he hasn't faced this defense. And I'm not talking about the defense that you saw against the Cardinals. I'm talking about the defense that terrorized the Panthers and the defense that will terrorize Russell Wilson, who is not as fast as he used to be, but he is way more cerebral. I am so glad that the 49ers had to win in the way they had to win against the Cardinals. I mean, a lot of people were not satisfied with that win, but you're going to have seasons where they're not going to be perfect games. You got to understand, even in the seasons where teams have went on and win the Super Bowl, not every game is going to be perfect. And to see us, again, I'll say it again, let's reiterate, the 49ers were 4-12 last year. I'm sorry. I might have said that they would be 11-5 or whatnot this year. I certainly did not foresee them winning 8 straight games, and I believe that they're going to win 9 straight games. The 49ers have a mentality, and we have to pause again and talk about where that came from. A lot of us questioned, first of all, we wanted Kyle Shanahan. I think that was pretty, it was widespread throughout the empire that Kyle Shanahan was a front runner for this job. There was people were saying Josh McDaniels was a candidate, and maybe that Jed York was leaning towards him, but he did whatever he wanted to do and returned over there to the Patriots. There was other coaches that were mentioned, and I believe even at the last hour, Sean McVay's name came up, and the Rams scurried. They hurried up and signed the coach that they have today. But overall, after seeing what Kyle Shanahan was able to do over his career, but he really put the icing on the cake when he was with the Atlanta Falcons and that Super Bowl season. I didn't win it, but you saw Kyle Shanahan show his grit and who he is as a coordinator and just how smart he is, and being able to, it's crazy because that game that the Ravens exposed the defense of the Patriots, Kyle Shanahan also exposed the defense of the Patriots during the Super Bowl. But you saw that he had the X's and O's and that he was a very cerebral coach. And you're like, man, that's the coach we wanted. But then I think a lot of people, if not every single person, you may leave a comment and say, I knew that we were going to get this person, but I remember where I was and what I was doing when a friend of mine, nudged me and said, hey, we just signed John Lynch as our GM. And I just kind of was like, wait a minute, hold on. Who? And he was like, John Lynch. I'm like, John Lynch? You talking about John Lynch, the safety that played with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Yeah. John Lynch, the analyst on Fox? Is that guy? Yeah, that's John Lynch. I said, well, hold on. So what do we all do? Immediately we go into our phone. Let me check this thing out myself. Let me self-report. Let me see if this is really true. So I immediately went to my phone. Mind you, where I'm at, I'm in a place where you shouldn't be on your phone. But I went ahead and I got on my phone because I'm like, this is serious. If he ain't playing around right now, let me see if this is true. So I get on my phone, and long and behold, man, the 49ers signed John Lynch, breaking news, as their GM. And that was so surprising. And I believe from that point, from that time, we've doubted John Lynch. We said, this fairy tale, this little fantasy, we questioned Kyle Shanahan for allowing this to happen, and then we doubted John Lynch and said, this fantasy that you create is not going to work. And for the past few seasons, we're like, you're proving it right to us. You're picking up people. What was Trent Baalke was known for, just picking up people with injuries. And we've seen that pattern kind of continue. And we're like, man, here we go again, dealing with the same old 49ers, just kind of piecing stuff together. We doubted John Lynch. We doubted Kyle Shanahan in that he would allow his GM, pretty much his boss, if you want to see it like that, to be somebody who had no experience. And rightfully so. Nobody's going to knock us or knock you because you doubted a analyst in the booth who was good at his job in the booth and was also very good at his job. To me, he is a Hall of Fame safety that should be in the Hall of Fame. He did a good job there. But with no track record of leading a team, it's like, what in the world? Now, the reason why I'm telling you this story, like, Jerry, why are we getting into this? Because you have to look at where you came from in order to appreciate where you are and where you're going. And the 49ers started out with a brand new coach who had coached, coordinated, but he wasn't ever a head coach. So remind you, we already have a rookie coach who's learning how to do this. And then he hires, pretty much okays that his boss, the GM, is someone who had nothing to do with coaching or any front office administrative work, period, in John Lynch. And so when you realize the magnitude of that in itself, that we had pretty much no experience between the two. Now, they did a great job of going out and hiring. They pulled front office team members from the Broncos. They did a good job of hiring people who knew the process. But even Robert Saleh and those guys didn't have experience at being coordinators. Like, you're getting people who are very much so new to this. And think about Jimmy G. You know, he started how many games? Think about the running backs. Think about our team. You talk about underdogs who had no experience, and you put them together. Now think about all that adversity. And if I told you what I just told you now, back then in the past, and said this season of 2019, we're going to be 8-0, would you tell everybody to stop being excited? Don't be happy. Go sit down. Don't be excited. You would say there is no way in the world we would ever be 8-0. See, fam, I'm trying to get you to understand where we are right now in this process. We were supposed to show progression in this season here. This wasn't supposed to be our 8-0 still running forward. We still got next season where we're supposed to be in our prime, hitting on all cylinders. We are ahead of schedule. That's the season next year that we're supposed to be like, this better work. So to have this happen early, this is amazing. And we got to get excited about those things. You're listening to the Phresh Perspective Podcast with your host, Jerry Phresh. Like I always say, thank you guys so much for being here, listening to this podcast, all the support you guys show. We've come through so much, the players, everybody there. And then you got players on the team like an Armstead, Eric Armstead, Solomon Thomas. You got players, Witherspoon's coming back, but these are players who you're like, they're not going to work. They haven't shown anything. They haven't flashed like they should. There's no way that these pieces are going to work. But I know where this season, all these players start showing what they can do. It's hard for us to look at Solomon Thomas the same way because he was the number 3 overall pick. And I'm sorry, I don't know who else really wanted Solomon Thomas as far as in that draft. I'll admit this. I really had a football crush on Christian McCaffrey in that draft. Like, I'm talking about, Lord Jesus, please, let us get Christian McCaffrey. What I wanted us to do was we traded back with the Bears, and I was hoping that we would just keep doing that. Like, somebody else wants to come up. I think there were talks that teams really liked Leonard Fournette and wanted to come up, or whoever that was in the draft. I would have loved for us to trade back and snatch up Christian McCaffrey. Hindsight's always 20/20, but I'm thankful that we are able to say we're 8-0 and we didn't have to get that, but I would have loved to have to get him, but I would have loved to have Christian McCaffrey on his team. And I love Solomon Thomas. I love his story. As you know, he lost his sister to suicide, and it was a hard thing. And I believe that going through that, the same with Marquise Goodwin, having certain players in the locker room, I believe it built up the integrity that we see today a team that knows how to face adversity and go out there and win. And there's something very different about players that just play the game, who have a skill set, but they're separate. They're not in unity. And a team that knows how to go out there, they have a good skill set, but they know how to win. You listen to the Phresh Perspective Podcast with your boy Jerry Phresh. You know, to see our guys, the guys we believe in, to see the guys that when you name them to other football fans and you're like, yeah, man, Kendrick Bourne and Richie James, and you name these players, they're like, who? I bet you they're not saying who anymore, because it's those players that are stepping up and doing stuff. Use check, who's that? A fullback. You telling me a fullback's gonna come and help you guys win? No way. Man, Juszczyk is so awesome. He's a fullback, he's a tight end, he's a utility, all-around weapon. And when he first got, here's another doubt towards Kyle Shanahan. When they signed that boy, it was like, are you serious? How much you paying him? You know you crazy when you pay somebody so much money that the following few years, they're still the highest paid at their position. Nobody even stepped up and said, you know what, let's go ahead and find another. You know, usually in the NFL, if you decide I'm gonna pay a position an insane amount of money, all the rest of that position gets excited, because it's like, guess what? Dallas just decided to pay Dak Prescott this much. Okay, now all the quarterbacks is like, we about to get paid that much. Not so with the fullback position. This man's making the highest, and he might retire making the highest, because they don't use fullbacks. You know, there's very few teams who use fullbacks. But when you see how Kyle uses Juszczyk, it's like, whoa, he's not just a fullback. He literally is used in so many different positions on the field, on the offense. It's amazing, and it justifies why we pay him so much. And that's a part of the game that Kyle Shanahan is very good at. It don't matter what your title is, or your position, he'll use you in the best way he knows how, and to your strengths. He's like, okay, yeah, you have to be called a fullback, but the rules allow me to use you in so many different positions. You can be my tight end, you can be my running back, you can be my lead blocker. You can do so much for me. Wide receiver, I don't care. And so, again, when you make the decision to say, don't get excited at this time, I think it would be best to say, let's not get our hopes up, because at any moment, this all can come crashing down. That's how the NFL is. A winning streak can turn into a losing streak. When you come off like that, like, hey, just remember that this can all change. I think it's more accepted than just kind of lashing out at people like, hey, what are you doing? Was that a smile? Did you just cheer? You ain't won nothing yet. Go sit down. You gotta approach people in a certain way where people aren't just offended right when you open your mouth. You're listening to the Phresh Perspective Podcast with your boy Jerry Phresh. But being excited about the 49ers doing great things is what we are here to talk about, and we're here to appreciate what we're going to do, what we have done, and what we're going to continue to do. So as we welcome the Seahawks into our home, and right on time, because you already know for the first few seasons in Levi Stadium, it was not our home. It was the actual stadium was against us. The grass, whatever you want to call that, the solder, I don't know what they had down there, but people were breaking ankles, slipping. We were doing better in other places, in other stadiums and arenas than we were in our own home. But when the Browns came over to play us, and it was a sleepover because the Browns were knocked out. It was not even a competition. And then it was like, okay, well, let's see what happens next time. And we played against the Panthers. Nighty night. The 49ers finally christened that stadium, Levi Stadium, as their home, and right on time, because we need to have Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks feeling very uncomfortable. They're not a welcome guest into our home. They need to feel very uncomfortable. Don't take your shoes off. Don't go in my refrigerator. Don't do any of that. I want you to come in here. I want it to be cold. I want you to feel uncomfortable, and I want you to leave feeling uncomfortable. And that's exactly what we plan on doing when the Seattle Seahawks, when the Seattle Seahawks come into our home. You're listening to the Phresh Perspective Podcast with Jerry Phresh. You guys are awesome, amazing. Like I said, this is my third one this week because I'm just excited about what the 49ers continue to do. Hyped up. Oh, big thing I want to talk about. So I was at work today and I saw the rankings come out, and they actually, NFL Network, you actually put the 49ers as number one. And now I know a lot of you guys are like, oh no, they put us as number one. We can't hide anymore. Let me tell you something. The 49ers, when you don the red and gold, you never, ever were you never could hide. The only thing that other people could try to make you think was that you never were good because they're afraid if you start believing. If the Niners believe in themselves, look what happens. You got a locker room of men, underdogs who are considered to be average, believing in themselves for one common goal. And look what happens. Now, I do agree, we still got a long way to go. And we have to continue to push this forward. But to see that ranking come out and to see the 49ers as number one, and that's not on every ranking. There's some that have the 49ers all the way down to 3. But I'm happy that we are considered the number one team. But the cool part about having this schedule coming up, it provides motivation and fire for our players, because when analysts are on TV, they're like, well, we're about to see if the 49ers are really true. Well, what are you saying that we're 8-0? Because the real teams are here. And that's motivation for, like Richard Sherman always says, he wants to be motivated. It's like, okay, you guys don't think I can beat, the Seahawks? All right, let's go play. You don't think I can beat this team? Okay, let's go play them. The Packers, what? Let's go. That game against the Ravens is going to be interesting, I'll tell you that much. I am looking forward to seeing that. I do like the way that Lamar Jackson is developing. I like to see our young quarterbacks that are athletic get out there and play. But I'm just being honest with you. The way that Nick Bosa, he gave us a sneak peek of his athleticism. Now, I'm not comparing his athleticism to Lamar Jackson. But I tell you what, man, when he intercepted that ball against the Panthers, it gave me confidence to another level in his development and what kind of player he could be. It's so scary for other teams to have to face a player that is already basically at the top of their position when they come in, and they still have to learn. And I was saying, okay, JJ Watt. Now, the reason why we give these players respect is because they actually did it. They actually went out there and played the game. And so you want to say, hey, before, just like with these wins, you want to say, hey, before you get your hopes up about Nick Bosa, let this man go out there and prove it. And I'm willing to do that. But I'm also willing to be excited because what did we say in the first place? What were you scared of? Nick, we were thinking that he was injury prone. And God forbid, knock on wood, he stays healthy, please, Lord. But at the same time, you could see that this man is awesome and he has a skill set that he's learned from a very young age, and it is translating on the field, just like with his older brother, which I think he's better than. Shout out to you, Joey. Great job in taking down those Packers and giving us the exact format to do so ourselves. You're listening to the Phresh Perspective Podcast with your boy, Jerry Phresh. So the 49ers, the schedule gets harder, and we have to prepare ourselves that there may be a loss in there. And right now, you don't want to be the person who says that we're going to lose. And I know I've been talking about the pessimist and saying step back and, don't knock down everybody when they're excited. But at the same time, we are logical, and there's a chance that we lose. And there's a chance that we lose more than one game. And so we have teams that we're going to face, right now, the media, I believe majority of the media, regardless of what they ranked, like on NFL.com, if you ask them what team in the NFC is the best, I believe majority of them would say the Saints. The reason why I love this season so much is because a lot of other seasons, you never get to play those teams that they're talking about until the playoffs. And then you're like, okay, in the playoffs, will prove if we get there or if it all works out. And sometimes it never happens. But in these rankings, the teams that the 49ers have been put under and said that they'll never be as good as, we actually play those teams. So I'm actually hoping we go undefeated. Because I want to blow not only the minds of those teams and those fans of other teams, but the minds of the empire who is like, there's no way we can do this. I want you guys to be like, wow, the 49ers are legit. You guys, there's a lot of us that we have doubts. We're listening. We've been drinking the Kool-Aid like, yeah, we may not be that good. Who have we played? We ain't played nobody. Please, man. You tell me any time where a team is going 8-0 against the teams that put in front of them on their schedule, and you say they're not that good, you won. You did what you're supposed to do. In order for you to be successful in the more difficult things and for you to aim toward perfection, you have to first handle the games you're supposed to win. Handle your business at home first. Handle your business of what you're supposed to do before you endeavor to do greater. But don't ever overlook the things you're supposed to do. So if the 49ers were supposed to beat those teams, then good job, because there's a lot of teams in the NFL that are supposed to beat the teams. Packers versus the Chargers, who don't beat those teams. Patriots versus the Ravens. So the first step of what you want to do to get to that Super Bowl that you want to just look at and say, that's the end goal. Before you jump to that, part of being humble is paying attention and getting excited about the victories that you face every single day, the normality of the things that come in front of you all the time. And the team that we have right now is fighting for the next game and the next game and the next game. And they're doing an awesome job. You listen to the Phresh Perspective Podcast with your boy Jerry Phresh. Extra hyped up about this, Niner fam. Extra hype about our team. You don't hear it in the news that people are going out and talking crap to other people. You're not hearing that Jimmy G's out there talking mess to people or Richard Sherman's getting up in people's faces. You know, we had a little bit of that when Sherman kind of talked about Baker Mayfield. And it was some confusion about a handshake or whatnot. But aside from that, you're not hearing a lot of that. You may hear something. A lot of you guys, and I commend you. Kudos to those who go out and look and search and find news on the 49ers that other people can't find. I do have a job. I do have bills to pay. So I'm not that means that you can't be loyal to searching out and finding out news for your team, but I haven't dedicated as much time as I used to be able to. You know, I used to. I remember when I first fell in love with football, when those days when, you know, I was playing Madden and you know, you can learn a lot from just playing Madden. And I fell in love with football. I would have so many different I needed it. It was like a fix for me. I'm on there searching everything on the internet, just who's the best. I used to know the top 5 players on every single team and how they rated out. And it was just all memory. It wasn't that I wrote it down. And then I would just draw up plays. You guys know what I'm talking about. The love of the game. And as I got older, the responsibilities changed. You start doing other stuff. And so it is a true blessing for those who get to go out there and get paid to do this. You know, and then some people, you're in a situation where whether you're at home with your parents or your job allows you to work from home or whatever, you have a better schedule. You can work on football stuff at work and you have a better schedule and you can really get this stuff out. Because I used to see people coming up with like breaking news. I'm like, how did you figure that out? Like, I got all my settings on ESPN ready to go, and you, an hour before I even got an alert that so-and-so was traded, you already knew it. And some people, they have the time to dedicate themselves to it. But just because you don't have the chance to make a podcast doesn't mean that you're not a lover of this game. Listen to the Phresh Perspective Podcast with your boy Jerry Phresh. Niner Empire, our team is 8-0, and we're facing those Seahawks. And I asked you guys in the last podcast, what do you think the score is going to be? Because you can kind of see, like, we played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it was a good game. You know, they played us pretty well. But I think the team we are now, because we're constantly developing, man, those Buccaneers ain't ready for this. And so then you see the Seahawks in that game of the Buccaneers. See, and I told you guys in the last podcast, Seahawks have longevity. They know how to go out there. They're not exhausted. They know how to play. They've been to the playoffs. They got a veteran team now. They're relying on their quarterback more, while the Buccaneers are still trying to figure out their identity and how to win, and if that quarterback is truly their quarterback. And the Seahawks were able to outlast them when they should have been able to put them away early. So I think that the Seahawks are going to try to stop the run, kind of like the Cardinals did, and try to dare Jimmy G to pass the ball. And I'm looking for Jimmy to go out there and have a good game. Jimmy G has been questioned every day since he's been here. And yeah, he got accolades and he was lifted up when he came in those last 5 games when he first came in. But overall, he's been questioned and people looked at him and said, is he the real deal? But I promise you guys that when Jimmy G is called upon and the game plan is for Jimmy G to go out there and to light you up, he will. Jimmy G is doing exactly what his coach has asked him to do. And we have not needed Jimmy G to go out there and expose you. And guess what? We have a coach that says, Jimmy G, if we can win this game through running and defense, I don't want you to light people up right now, because I want to set other teams up to believe that all we can do is run the ball. And then, boom, Jimmy G all over you. So, Niner Empire, don't listen to the naysayers who tell you this is what's going on and this is what you have to do and this is how you have to believe. The 49ers continue to get better. They continue to prove the doubters wrong. I believe they're going to go into Seattle, and I believe they're going to beat the Seattle Seahawks 37-17. Niner Empire, as always, thank you so much for listening, for coming on this channel, for subscribing. Please share these videos with others. Let them hear what we're talking about here. Let's stay Niners strong, faithful. Let the Empire continue to rise. You guys have an awesome, awesome day. Thank you.
You have been listening to the Phresh Perspective Podcast. Until next time, go Niners.